Hello, friends. Happy Thursday, and thank you for joining me. I hope that you're doing all right. I've got a great conversation with Dr. Rob Davidson from the Committee to Protect Healthcare today, and a bonus. I've got my appearance from yesterday's Stephanie Miller radio show. It's pretty good. Got a lot of great reviews, if I do say so myself. If you want to jump to those interviews, my conversation with Steph Miller begins at 45 minutes. And my conversation with Dr. Rob Davidson starts at 58 minutes. And you can also watch that one on YouTube. Well, both of them are on YouTube, but on my channel, Rob Davidson, Dr. Rob, is youtube.com/standupwithpete, where you can see all of my live interviews, my guest interviews. Most of them are live there. If you want to watch them, subscribe to YouTube and Substack. Watch us over there. All right. Well, I've got your headlines and I've got your clips coming up, but do want to mention it is Thursday, so I will be hosting a hangout for all paid subscribers. So come on by tonight at 8 p.m. Should be a great time. And we have confirmed Wajahat Ali for PodJam. He will join us, so you should too. If you want to meet Waj out in Las Vegas, join us. It is the 9th through the 12th of April. We'll be there. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have a great time. We've rented out like a bar, restaurant place. It's going to be better than ever before. So please, if you're considering coming, this should put you over the top. I hope to see you in Las Vegas at PodJam 3. Get your tickets right now. And if you have any questions, standupwithpete@gmail.com. I'll try to help you out. Just put PodJam 3 or PodJam in the subject. I'll know what you're talking about. All right, let's time to get to the headlines and the clips, what we call the shit show. John Carroll even wrote a song, a jingle for it.
It's Pete's Headlines and Clip Show. Get in on the shit show.
Well, I'm going to start with a rundown of what we know on the 20th day of the U.S. and Israel's war with Iran. And this is an update from this morning. Nearly 3 weeks into the Middle East war, Iran is ramping up attacks on critical energy infrastructure in Arab Gulf states, threatening the world's energy security and causing global oil prices to surge even higher. This is reporting from CNN, the New York Times, and more. Yesterday, President Oompa J. Loompa tried to distance his administration from Israel's attacks on Iran's gas fields, but warned that if Iran continued to attack Qatar, the U.S. would completely blow up the South Pars field that Israel had already started to attack. Apparently, also, Khan Wan scolded Israel for attacking the South Pars field when they did, but also there's reporting that we knew they were going to. So we let them do it, and then we scolded them after they did it. I don't know. That would be kind of how things are going, I think. Oil prices surged on Wednesday to $110 per barrel after attacks on energy infrastructure in Persian Gulf countries. Iran hit Qatar's natural gas processing facility, a major energy hub, twice within 12 hours, causing extensive damage. In Abu Dhabi, gas operations at crucial energy sites were temporarily suspended after missile debris fell on the facilities, and in Kuwait, a drone attack caused a fire at an oil refinery today, that's from this morning. Saudi Arabia also intercepted drones, including one that had been heading for a gas facility, warning on Thursday that Riyadh, quote, reserved the right to take military actions against Iran if necessary. Its meeting of 12 Arab and Islamic foreign ministers produced a joint statement calling for Iran to immediately halt its attacks. Qatar expelled Iran's military and security attachés following a strike on their country, ordering them to leave the country within 24 hours. A day after his resignation, former Trump administration counterterrorism chief Joe Kent said there was, quote, no intelligence suggesting Iran was going to launch a big sneak attack akin to 9/11 or Pearl Harbor. He said Iran was not on the verge of getting a nuclear weapon and that he felt Israel pulled the U.S. into the conflict. He was talking to Tucker Carlson, and I've got a clip for you coming up, unfortunately. In an opinion piece in The Economist, Oman's foreign minister urged American allies to step in and help end what he called an unlawful war, saying the U.S. had lost control of its foreign policy. And in the U.S. Senate, Republicans again rejected a resolution aimed at reining in this madman, our president's war powers. The second time Democrats have forced an unsuccessful vote since the current conflict with Iran started. The death toll across the region is rising, with Lebanon now reporting nearly 1,000 people killed since the conflict began. The highest toll so far comes from Iran, with scores more killed in Gulf nations and Israel as well. Also thought this was an interesting story. The USS Gerald Ford aircraft carrier moving away from operations tied to the Iran war and sailing to the U.S. Navy's base in Crete for repairs after a fire broke out in the ship's laundry area last week. The USS Gerald Ford is the Navy's most advanced aircraft carrier. It's been deployed for almost 6 months, apparently. New York Times reported that it took more than 30 hours to put out this fire, that 600 crew members lost their beds. And there were rumors, though I don't see any credible reporting, rumors that the fire was started by actual Navy sailors on that ship because they were calling it a mutiny. They were mad that they'd been deployed for so long. That was a rumor. I haven't seen credible reporting, but thought it was interesting. And maybe it's true. I don't know. What am I just connecting the dots here? Just telling you things that may or may not be? If anybody knows. If you've seen that, let me know. Okay, well, those are your headlines related to the Iran war, but don't worry, I've got more. Yesterday, a New York Times investigation is getting a lot of attention. It was a 5-year investigation, apparently. Extensive evidence was found that civil rights activist and celebrated labor leader Cesar Chavez, who died in 1993, apparently groomed and raped children. Yeah, the Times investigation published found extensive evidence that the Latino civil rights icon groomed and sexually abused girls who were connected to his movement. 2 women who knew Chavez when they were children shared their stories for the first time publicly. One of them described being molested and sexually abused by Chavez dozens of times, starting when she was 13. Another said she was 12 when he first touched her inappropriately. When the first woman was 15, Chavez had sexual intercourse with her, which is rape under California law. The abuse appeared to be part of a larger pattern of sexual misconduct by Chavez, much of which has never been publicly revealed. He used many of the women who worked in his movement for his own sexual gratification. Dolores Huerta, a prominent activist who helped run the United Farm Workers Union with Chavez, said in an interview that he had forced her to have sex with him in the 1960s, a secret she had kept for nearly 60 years. Quote, "I can no longer stay silent," Huerta said. It's a 5-year-long investigation. It's devastating, and it's promoted widespread fallout already. Within hours, organizations tied to Cesar Chavez, who died in 93, like I said, moved to distance themselves. Celebrations honoring him were canceled across the country. Officials said they would consider quickly renaming the many streets and schools named in his honor, and that is a tough one to take, no doubt, and I don't have anything else to say about that because I don't do a lot of commentary during the headlines as much as I'd like to go off. Also, we saw this hearing yesterday for the new Department of Homeland Security Secretary, Mark Wayne Mullen, who's stepping in to fill the void that the last Homeland Security Secretary is leaving, of course, Kristi Noem. And his a-holiness pick for Homeland Security Secretary began with a fiery personal clash. Senator Rand Paul, a fellow Republican, hates Mark Mullen and made no secret of it. He accused Mullen of having anger issues and questioned whether he had the temperament to lead the department, and said later on he probably would not vote for Mark Mullen. Later in the hearing, the New York Times says Mullen struck a softer tone. He committed to working with Democrats and the leaders of sanctuary cities. He said he wanted ICE to focus on deporting migrants who are already in jail rather than being on the, quote, front lines. His comments were in line with a broader shift among Republicans who have acknowledged at times the president's aggressive approach could cost them votes. Mullen also said he would end the policy that slowed federal disaster aid. He wouldn't apologize to the families of Alex Preddy and Renee Good, though. Also yesterday, news from the Fed. The central bank held interest rates steady. Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, also said he would remain on the board until the Trump administration concludes its investigation into him. He said a lot of other things as well, that there was zero job creation in the private sector. This is an undercovered story, in my opinion, but the Fed sees unemployment holding at 4.4% amid low labor force growth driven by immigration declines and lower participation rates. But he said the U.S., Jerome Powell said job creation in the U.S. has slowed to essentially zero altogether. Central bankers, he said, see a, quote, degree of stability, however, in the labor market. And he said the global oil crisis may have only temporary economic effects. So that sounds like a pretty rosy outlook that I think that he's got wrong, probably. Oh, and here's great news. The United States has been downgraded in a democracy index as press freedom concerns are growing. That's right. The Varieties of Democracy Institute, Sweden's Gothenburg University, finds in its annual report that the second term of Orange Hitler has been characterized by a swift concentration of power in the executive branch that ignores the rule of law, suppresses dissent, and targets civil rights. So many countries are falling further into autocracy, the report finds. But the U.S. stands out as an, quote, an exceptional new autocratizer due to both far-reaching changes in 2025 and their implications for the rest of the world. The extensive damage already done to the American democracy under the second Trump presidency, it says, in just 1 year stands out on the world map. So this seems like pretty shitty news. And I just saw this headline. 2 shipments of Russian oil and gas head to Cuba in defiance of U.S. First cargo on course to arrive Monday. While Uncle Scam taunts Cuba and the administration is engaging in some talks, I guess, but this is going to come to a head. I don't like this idea. This reminds me of other things that I don't love. But apparently there's been just a blackout, an energy blackout in the island nation, and it's pretty awful, pretty scary. It must be really rough for folks down there, and I should probably talk to somebody about that, maybe a reporter who's down there or somebody who's down there. But yeah, crazy times continue because yesterday the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, as well as Kash Patel and others, dodged questions about the planning for the war in Iran, to what extent Trump was briefed on the possible scenarios that led up to the strikes against Tehran. Lawmakers attempted to utilize the rare hearing to extract answers from senior Trump officials on the expanding U.S.-Israeli war with Iran. They didn't get a lot, but I do have some great clips coming up for you. Got a clip from him coming up as well. Learned yesterday that the first reported instance of a New York public school student being detained by ICE in Trump's second term, he was just released after 10 months. His name is Dylan Lopez Contreras, and I don't even think he was charged with anything, which is horrific. And finally, a new study says that urban birds are using cigarettes in their nests to ward off parasites. How about that, Steve? Something really great to share here at the end. Something fantastic about birds, how brilliant they are and how they're utilizing the poison that we create to help protect themselves, right? That's how I'm going to twist it. Okay, those are the headlines that I've gathered, and now it's time to get the sound bites, the clips. Time for the clip show. Let's start with that hearing, confirmation hearing for Markwayne Mullin coming up, and I got a couple great clips from Rand Paul here, which I think should be I mean, if you haven't heard these, then you got to listen to them. If you want to skip ahead, by all means, go ahead, but real good.
3 days in between.
You offered no apology.
Sir?
And you offer no apology today, and no regrets. Haven't heard the word apologize, haven't heard the word regret, haven't heard I misspoke and it was heated and I made a mistake. Haven't heard any of those words.
Sir, actually it wasn't heated, and I'm not apologizing for pointing out your character.
Good. So you're jolly well fine, and you want the American public and the people up here to vote, that may or may not vote for you, to know that you supported the felonious, violent attack on me from behind.
I did not say I supported it. I said I understood it. There's a difference.
So that means you really didn't approve of it, just completely understand it. What do you think most people would interpret completely understand to be? Support for or a condemnation of the violence?
Sir, as I said, we can have our differences. It's not going to keep me from doing my job as Secretary of Homeland Security. I'm going to secure Kentucky and take care of Kentucky as much as I am Oklahoma.
If this were a one-off, it would be one thing. If you just disliked me so much that you approved of violence against me, people could just write it off. Well, maybe they hate each other.
He said there's a pattern of this next, and then he rolled a tape of Markwayne Mullin being a dick. In the Senate confirmation hearing, you can't hear it, or else I'd share it. But later on, Rand Paul went on Fox News and said this.
Nobody really in the modern age that I know of, other than Markwayne Mullin, is justifying political science, political violence as, oh, well, we need a manly way to settle our differences, and sometimes people just need to be punched in the mouth. That to me is bizarre, and I think makes him unfit to lead federal law enforcement.
So can you vote for him?
No. I mean, an apology might have had a chance, but he's had several chances. I talked to him privately, and he referred to it that we had political differences. And today he said we should set aside our political differences. Well, Political differences would be, I'm against the refugee welfare program, and I've told him he's for it. That's a political difference. But if I wished violence on his family, that wouldn't be acceptable. And if he says the violence that happened to me, where I had 6 ribs broken, my lung damaged, part of my lung removed, 2 pneumonias, if he thinks that's justifiable and he can readily understand it, he can completely understand it, I think that makes him unacceptable and unfit to hold office.
Oh, wow. So is he going to get the vote? Is he going to get confirmed or not? Apparently John Fetterman is going to vote for him. So that's pretty gross. But there you go. That's a little bit of what it sounded like to you. Hopefully you saw more of those clips. He really got raked and railed by several. But the other hearing that took place yesterday was probably just as, if not more important. It's what's called the annual threat matrix hearing, where U.S. government's top intelligence officials join the Senate for an annual worldwide threats hearing. That's what it's called, about the war with Iran and more. Georgia Senator and beautiful man Jon Ossoff came off pretty good and pretty indignant when he accused the Trump administration of trying to raise money and offer secret meetings with anybody they want if they donated to his campaign, while using photos of flag-draped coffins coming back from the war he started.
I want to call everyone's attention again to this fundraising email signed by the president that Senator Kelly mentioned earlier, in which the President of the United States invites his campaign donors to, quote, claim your spot, join now to receive private national security briefings, to his political donors, featuring a photo of the president at a dignified transfer ceremony with a flag-draped coffin of an American service member killed in action returning to their family. And the American people need to know that the President of the United States is fundraising for his political campaign and his PAC using images of American service members killed in action, and it's a disgrace.
Yes, well done, Senator Jon Ossoff. But this was the moment that I thought was my favorite. I watched several of the Democrats question all of these guys and women on stage, and this was the moment I liked the best from Jon Ossoff.
You are here to represent the IC's assessment of threats. That's a quote from your own opening statement. And so my question is, as you're here to present the IC's assessment of threats, was it the assessment of the intelligence community that, as the White House claimed on March 1st, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
Once again, Senator, the intelligence community has provided the inputs that make up this annual threat assessment.
You won't answer the question.
It is the nature of the imminent threat that the president has to make that determination based on a collection and volume
of
information and intelligence that he is provided with.
You're here to be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations.
Exactly what I'm doing.
No, you're evading a question because to provide a candid response to the committee would contradict a statement from the White House. Let me ask.
All right. Thought that was really good. Specifically, a couple of senators tried to get Tulsi Gabbard and John Ratcliffe to admit that they had done their job and warned the madman that if they attacked Iran, they would likely close the Strait of Hormuz, causing a lot of the chaos that we're seeing now. They tried to get the intelligence experts there, leaders there, to tell them. Did you tell him? Because he's saying he had no idea this would happen. Publicly, he's gone out on Truth Social and everywhere. I'm like, nobody saw this coming. No, everybody saw it coming. They told you it was going to happen. This is akin to bin Laden wants to strike in America, in a presidential daily briefing that George W. Bush got. That's what it rings of. It's not getting nearly enough attention. That one very important point. He always acts like he didn't know something was going to happen or that something did happen, like that he lost the election. Nobody told me that I lost the election. Yeah, everybody told you. Everyone told you that. You're lying. It's a full bold-faced lie. And if these intelligence leaders look pretty bad, if they didn't tell the president what everybody knows, which is that they would close down the Strait of Hormuz, which it would cause a chaos and third, fourth, and fifth order ripple effect throughout the world. Yeah, they better have told him that. We all knew that. Everyone knew that. Let's go back to Senator Mark Warner, who is, I think, the ranking member on the committee.
Now, I understand, and I appreciated Dr. Gabbard's comments yesterday about agreeing that the president has sole authority, I guess, in his bones to declare whether something is an imminent threat. I didn't agree with your friend, Mr. Kent, but I agreed with him yesterday on the fact that there was no imminent threat. I guess what I'm concerned about, one thing is, even in your printed testimony today on page 6, and your last paragraph on page 6, as a result of Operation Midnight Hammer, Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated. There's been no efforts to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. You omitted that paragraph from your oral opening. Was that because the president had said there was an imminent threat 2 weeks?
No, sir. I recognize that the time was running long, and I skipped through some of the portions.
So you chose to take
my oral delivered remarks.
You chose to omit the parts that contradict the president.
Yeah, I bet she had those highlighted, that she was going to skip them because they had the written transcript that they were reading from, and then they heard her and she didn't mention it. So, guess she was just running out of time. All right, well, let's leave that hearing. There's a lot more to it, but head over to Zeteo, where Mehdi Hassan had Senator Chris Van Hollen on and asked him a burning question on a lot of conspiracy theorists' minds.
You are a United States Senator. You are privy to intelligence that the American public does not have access to. You sit on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, so I've got to ask you a question the entire internet is dying to hear the answer on. Is Benjamin Netanyahu dead?
Yeah. This is the kind of thing that the internet now is famous for. I mean, it is hard to believe anything you see sometimes on the internet. This is the latest example.
You didn't say no, Senator. That's what people on the internet are going to notice.
No, he's not dead.
Okay. Just checking.
All right.
Just checking.
Netanyahu's not dead. Anybody who's looking at the internet, Netanyahu's not dead. But look, I think that we are in this deep. Donald Trump has broken his promise to the American people, and we need to end this illegal war of choice right now. And we need to finally be working to advance self-determination for not just the people of Israel, but for the Palestinian people. And we need to make sure that we uphold the principle of human rights across the board, not just when it's politically convenient for one group or another.
Yes, good stuff, as always, from Senator Chris Van Hollen. And now let's go to that guy, Jeff Kent, who just resigned with a scathing resignation that a lot of people referred to as anti-Semitic. He's got connections to all kinds of bad people, believes in all kinds of conspiracy theorists, including being an election denier. Well, he went over to his good friend Tucker Carlson, and this is what he had to say.
Was Iran on the verge of getting a nuclear weapon?
No, they weren't, 3 weeks ago when this started, and they weren't in June either. I mean, the Iranians have had a religious ruling, a fatwa, against actually developing a nuclear weapon since 2004. That's been in place since 2004. That's available in the public sphere. But then also we had no intelligence to indicate that fatwa was being disobeyed or it was on the cusp of being lifted. The Iranian strategy, it's actually pretty pragmatic. The Iranians are obviously aware of what's taking place in their region, and their strategy was to not completely abandon their nuclear program because they saw what happened to Muammar Gaddafi in Libya when he said, hey, I've got no more nukes. I'll do what you say. I'll give up my nukes.
And we gave him the Nobel Peace Prize?
Yeah, we regime changed him, and he was executed by his own people in the most horrific
way. Yeah, it didn't go well for Gaddafi. But apparently now he's being investigated for leaking documents, leaking to somebody something. And they say that that investigation started before he resigned. So it's not a political persecution or investigation, but who knows? But that was news breaking last night. He's now being investigated for leaking. Here's what Congresswoman Sarah McBride had to say at a hearing yesterday, which I thought was smart. She's very smart.
This morning, actually, a loyalist to this president, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, resigned in protest to this reckless war of choice, saying that Iran posed no imminent threat to the United States and that this war serves no benefit to the American people. So why are we not having a hearing on a foreign policy that is spending over $1 billion a day on that war rather than on needs here at home?
There you go. Smart stuff. And speaking of smart, let's go to Pete Buttigieg, who was on CNN yesterday with Jake Tapper, had this to say.
And let's also remember that in the past, Iran's nuclear program was contained without a shot being fired. I think President Trump thought he could get a better deal than the Obama administration did. He failed to get that better deal, and he went off and launched a war without planning, without being ready for even some of the most basic things. I mean, it is a certainty that the military would have advised him that the Straits of Hormuz would have been closed, that was a likely scenario, and yet they're talking about this and clearly acting as though they didn't think this would happen. The Secretary Hegseth went so far as to say that the Strait of Hormuz is open, other than the fact that there would be fire against vehicles transiting the strait. This is clearly amateur hour at the Pentagon and in the White House. And again, the price is being paid by all of us. You can also just tell from the administration's attitude toward this war, the fact that they're putting out videos treating this like a video game. It's not a video game for the families of the fallen. And then just this week, we saw campaign fundraising materials being put out, emails where the president's committee, the president's political operation, was raising money off of images of him at a dignified transfer. Any politician who does that has no business leading American troops in the war. If the president is willing to raise campaign funds over the bodies of America's war dead, he is unfit to be the commander-in-chief.
Pete Buttigieg, veteran himself, not pulling any punches there, and so good stuff. Let's take the energy down and head over to the Fed, hear what the secretary, the Fed chairman, had to say.
But the thing that I think good number of people on the committee are concerned about is just the very, very low level of job creation. If you adjust what has been the trend job creation over the past, let's say, 6 months, if you adjust that for what we think, our staff thinks, is the overstatement due to overcounting, effectively there's zero net job creation in the private sector. But actually that looks like that's about what the economy needs in terms of dealing with very, very low, non-existent really, growth in the labor force, which of course we've never had in our history. So you've got a sort of a zero employment growth equilibrium. Now that's balance, okay, but I would say it does have a feel of downside risk, and it's not kind of a really comfortable balance. So
balance, not a comfortable one, does have downside risk. On a normal day of headlines, that would be all we would unpack is his analysis, the Fed's analysis, but it is never a normal day in America in 2026. And I've got more because there was yesterday a House Oversight Committee members met with the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. She was supposed to brief them on the Justice Department's handling of the Epstein files, but Democratic members of the House Oversight Committee stormed out midway through, enraged at the Attorney General, raising the threat of impeachment or contempt of Congress effort against her. The briefing came after the panel voted along bipartisan lines earlier this month to subpoena her under oath as part of the Epstein investigation. Democrats complained that the briefing was not under oath and that Bondi was combative and not forthcoming. Here's a little bit of the reaction from some of those who were there and stormed out. This happened later last night. The ranking member, Congressman Eric Garcia, I believe.
I just want to make some comments. We just walked out of what has been, quite frankly, complete disrespect of the process of one of our members. And quite frankly, the American public should be outraged at what is happening right now. I want to just start by saying that we opened up what was supposed to be a briefing by asking the Attorney General, which I did multiple times, if she would commit to follow the subpoena that is in place that compels her to answer questions that's under oath, transcribed, and then made available to the American people. And she refused on multiple occasions to commit to following the subpoena that Chairman Comer actually just put out.
You heard him say at the beginning complete disrespect of one of our members. Apparently, James Comer called Congresswoman Summer Lee a bitch. That's what Summer Lee said on her Instagram, and I think that there were plenty of witnesses to it. So I just can't possibly imagine. That's unfathomable for a congressman to refer to a woman as a bitch. To her face? What? All right. Gloves off. Take him out. Rhetorically should be easy. You can call him whatever you want now. Fucking James Comer. What an unbelievable piece of shit. Okay, moving on. Here is Max Frost, who is none too happy.
To me, it's very clear that the purpose of this entire fake hearing, this fake deposition, is the Attorney General trying to weasel herself out of sitting in front of us under oath, under a bipartisan subpoena that we gave her committee. We asked her multiple times, are you going to come and speak with us under oath? She would not say yes. Filibuster, filibuster, filibuster would not say yes. And so why do we, and then our Republican colleagues say, is this not enough? Why don't you want to speak to her now? We want her under oath because we do not trust her. Why don't we trust her? Because she's a liar. Look at how that Judiciary Committee hearing went. She was spying on members of Congress when they were in the DOJ looking at the documents unredacted. Look at what she's done as far as not putting documents relating to Donald Trump on the website, not releasing them, and only doing it when the public noticed and said something about it. We want her under oath because we don't trust her. We want her under oath because she has shown that she is involved in a cover-up. My Republican colleagues under the last administration would not stand for this, with Merrick Garland being in front of them not being under oath. They wouldn't allow that to happen for a second. So we see this for what it is. This is not a briefing. A briefing is when we sit down and we're getting information from the person giving the briefing. That didn't happen here. She sat down. They started the clock like a hearing. It's a hearing. It's a fake deposition where no one can see what's going on, where there's zero transcription, where it's not on C-SPAN or anything, and where no one is under oath and they are allowed to freely lie to members of Congress.
So well said by Florida's Max Frost. Love that guy. He is real good and absolutely right. Why would she not? Why the Attorney General can't be under oath to congressmen? Why? Because she knows she's lying and she does not want to be prosecuted and sent to jail for it when they are no longer in power. That's why. I'm pretty sure that's why. No expert, but I think that has a lot to do with it. You know what I like a lot? And I think you probably do too. Ted Lieu, Congressman Ted Lieu. Guy pulls no punches. And yesterday I found this clip. I don't know if this is from yesterday, but I found this clip where he explains perfectly why the SAVE Act is so stupid and, as he calls it, insane. So I wanted to share it with you.
I'm not opposed to voter ID requirements for voting. I'm opposed to stupid voter ID requirements. And the SAVE Act is insane because you know what it does? It's going to say for most people your driver's license doesn't count for you to be able to vote. So how do you prove you're a citizen? Well, hope you have a passport. If you don't have a passport, you got to go try to find your birth certificate. But if your birth certificate's name doesn't match because you're a woman and married and name change, guess what? Doesn't count. So all these people, women and people who don't have passports, are going to get disenfranchised immediately. And that's why I agree with Senator Lisa Murkowski, who was a no on the SAVE Act, because she says it's going to hurt her own constituents. You're going to have all these people who can't vote because they can't prove they're a citizen. And it's not that easy to prove you're a citizen because, again, in most places, your driver's license will not work. And you can't use a student ID. There's all sorts of IDs that people cannot use. And then what exactly is a problem that they're trying to solve? If the problem is undocumented immigrants voting in elections, that is an infinitesimal problem. Just go and research on the internet. It is so small. And why is that? Because undocumented immigrants want nothing to do with the government. Because, again, to vote, not only do you have to vote, you have to first register. How many undocumented immigrants can go, yes, I'm going to give all my information to the government that's trying to maybe deport me? No way. Undocumented immigrants just aren't going to register to vote. And if you don't register to vote, you're just not going to be able to vote because it won't match the registration roll. So this is a problem that doesn't even exist. As I just want people to understand that. It's a problem that doesn't even exist, and it's going to disenfranchise so many people. And by the way, the top 10 states with people without passports, all red states.
Yeah, real well done, Ted Lieu. Very well explained. Take that to your friends and family who think the SAVE Act is a good idea. And what else do I have? Oh, Raphael Warnock was on CNN last night, and he's always great.
He is a failed president. He was hired by the American people because he said he would lower their costs. Instead, he has doubled the health care premiums for some 22 million Americans because of his tariffs, which is a tax on everything. Groceries are up. Everything you have to buy is up. He said that he would be the president of peace. He's attacked 7 countries, more than any modern American president. And now we're in an unpopular war. And as a result of that, gas prices are up. And the people can see it. They can see through his lies.
Well, I hope you're right, Senator. Most of us can, but not everybody. And that is so depressing and frustrating for us. All right, I got one more clip for you here from the news, and it's Congressman Daniel Goldman, who yesterday took to the House floor, and he unveiled documents that were previously redacted and explained things I hadn't heard explained. And so I thought I wanted to share it. I know it's 5 minutes long, but a lot of you, when I asked for feedback, said you like these longer clips. They provide a lot more context. And this one provides a lot of context on things I had not heard about. I think none of us really had. So this is Daniel Goldman, Democratic congressman, yesterday on the House floor for 5 minutes, focusing on an issue that a lot of people believe a war is distracting from.
Today to discuss this administration's massive cover-up of the Epstein files in order to conceal President Trump's involvement. This cover-up reached its apex last month when Attorney General Pam Bondi falsely testified under oath before the House Judiciary Committee. The Attorney General testified, quote, "There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that," unquote. This is a lie. In the 3 million or so documents that the DOJ has disclosed to Congress under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, there is credible evidence that Donald Trump committed a crime. And that, of course, excludes the nearly 3 million pages that the DOJ is refusing to turn over. Donald Trump is mentioned thousands of times in the Epstein files. There are multiple allegations that he sexually assaulted young girls. But I want to focus on one victim's allegations that the FBI unquestionably found to be credible. The DOJ tried to hide reports of 3 of the 4 interviews that this victim gave to the FBI, but pressure from the media and Congress forced them to disclose them. And now we know why. She credibly accuses Donald Trump of sexually assaulting her when she was between 13 and 15. In each of her interviews, this victim recited the same account of her interaction with Donald Trump. On August 7th, 2019, she explained that she was between 13 and 15 when she was left alone with Donald Trump, who, quote, mentioned something to the effect of, "Let me teach you how little girls are supposed to be." Trump unzipped his pants and put her head down, quote, down to his penis, bit the S out of it. Trump struck the victim and said words to the effect of, "Get this little B the hell out of here." The victim advised that she bit Trump's penis because he disgusted her. She provided some additional details in the next interview 2 weeks later, and then a month later, she met again with the FBI and asked, quote, what the point would be of providing the information at this point in her life when there was a strong possibility nothing could be done about it. She didn't speak to the FBI again. But the FBI certainly found her story credible. In a 21-page PowerPoint presentation that the FBI made to prosecutors, they included this victim's testimony. They would not have done so if they did not find the evidence credible, which means that Attorney General Bondi lied when she stated under oath that there is no evidence that Donald Trump committed a crime. But we're just scratching the surface, because the Epstein files also reveal that Donald Trump has made false statements over the past quarter century about Jeffrey Epstein. We know in 2002 he called him a terrific guy and said, quote, "It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." In a birthday card, 2003, that Donald Trump gave to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday, Donald wrote for himself that we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Enigmas never aged. Have you noticed that? A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday. And may every day be another wonderful secret. But in that same year, Palm Beach County opened an investigation into Epstein that eventually was turned over to the FBI. The investigation became public in 2006, and the Palm Beach County police chief received a call quickly after from Donald Trump, where Trump told him, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." What innocent person calls the police chief about an investigation upon just learning about it? The recent documents also show that Jeffrey Epstein emailed Ghislaine Maxwell and said, quote, "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Redacted victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned." Trump also denied that he ever went on Epstein's plane. But of course, the Southern District of New York said that he was on his plane 8 times, often with young women. The reason why this matters is because we don't have half of the Epstein files. And if the Attorney General is covering this up in such a degree that she is redacting things from Congress, that she then redacting things from the public that she then shows to Congress, what else is she covering up? And I would just show that this document here was redacted to the public, it was unredacted to Congress, and it completely disputes everything that Donald Trump has said about Jeffrey Epstein, about what he knew about the allegations, about his disgusting behavior, about whether he'd ever been to Epstein's house, saying, "I may have been there with my wife." Asked if any young girls were there. No. He may have had children of guests, but that's it. Well, we know that's not the case. Now, why is this important? Because if the Attorney General is covering up this information that she then reveals to Congress, what else is she covering up about Donald Trump's involvement in the Epstein files?
All right, there it is. Daniel Goldman for you yesterday on the House floor. Hopefully you appreciated that longer clip, the full floor speech that he made yesterday, connecting a lot of dots, filling in some gaps for us. And now I think we desperately need some laughs. Let's head out to Los Angeles, where Jimmy Kimmel's hosting Jimmy Kimmel Live. And I didn't realize till last night, it's very, very hot, like 95 degrees for a couple of days and a couple of more, I think, out there in Southern California. Here's Jimmy.
We are coming to you from sweltering Hollywood, California, where we are in the middle of a record-breaking heat wave. Can you believe how hot it is? Temperatures are expected to hit triple digits by the end of the week. It's usually about 65 here in the middle of March. We are in what they are calling a heat dome, which is basically an invisible pizza oven, and we are all little pepperonis inside, crisping up. It's not even spring, and it's already summer here. Half the country is freezing. Half the country is burning. Even our weather is divided in this United States of America. I've been talking to our audience over the last few nights. We have a lot of people visiting from cold places, just getting out of the cold. And I have some news for you. I hope you like it here, because you might not be going home. According to officials with the TSA, if this partial government shutdown goes on much longer, some airports may be forced to close, which would be a huge inconvenience for business travelers, spring breakers, Cinnabon, Hudson News, Chili's to go, all of it. So far, the shutdown has forced 50,000 airport security officers to work without pay. Hundreds of them have already quit. 10% of all TSA agents called in sick yesterday. There are long lines across the country. These are lines hours and hours long at airports. They're saying that if you're flying to one of the popular spring break destinations, don't. Just stay home and watch TV. Watch a show about a trip instead. The situation has become so dire for those who aren't being paid. Airports are asking travelers now to bring TSA agents gift cards for food so they can eat for real. They're going to have to start selling the weed they confiscate pretty soon. But you know what? I'll say something about our men and women in the TSA. You don't sign up to work at the TSA to make money. You do it because you love loudly reminding strangers to put their laptops in a bin.
All right. Jimmy Kimmel last night, very funny. And now it's time to get to my conversation with Stephanie Miller on yesterday's Stephanie Miller Show, one of the most popular progressive radio shows in the country for years. You can find it on YouTube. You can find her on SiriusXM, a bunch of terrestrial radio stations, I believe, and pretty much everywhere else. Stephanie's a legend, and she's always been really good to me, and I was very happy to be back on the show. Lots of you listened. Maybe we'll have some new listeners here today on this podcast because it went so well, because folks gave me great feedback on this. So I said, that went pretty well. We had some good laughs, some good points were made, and I think I'm going to share it on the pod. So here it is, the great Stephanie Miller and I, and then after that, you'll hear my conversation with Dr. Davidson right after.
It's the Stephanie Miller Show.
Look, it's Pete Dominic.
Yay! Stand up with Pete.
And you know what a secure alpha liberal he is? He's in a fabulous fuchsia room right now and secure in his manhood. Good morning, Pete.
That's right. Stephanie, great to see you. Thank you so much for having me back on your amazing show. I'm so glad you guys are out here doing the work you do every day, better than everybody for as long as you have. And I'm not just saying that your ass, but I am.
You too. Oh, my God. We need it more than ever, don't we? The mainstream media is pathetic, trying to twist themselves into a pretzel. Like, this guy is not a completely demented madman that changes like his rationale every, other sentence about why we're in Iran, right?
I'm pretty excited to hear certain people call him just that. Congressman Jared Huffman out there in California, he called Trump a madman. He's a madman. And so increasingly, electeds are calling him a madman. Journalists have had a harder time doing it. I remember getting in a fight with Katie Tur, an argument at SiriusXM in 2016 when I said, "You're covering Donald Trump on the campaign trail. He's a white supremacist." She was appalled.
Yeah.
And I think probably still is.
Yeah. Has remained appalled ever since that moment. Yeah, I know, exactly. And that's supposed to be on the liberal network. She tends to both sides it. And this is him yesterday at the Ireland. I just want to say the war is proceeding very, very strongly. We're doing very, very well. Iran knocking the hell out of them. And you have to do that. We can't let them have a nuclear weapon. They were 2 weeks away. And meanwhile, Joe Kent resigns the same day, going, "No, not a threat at all."
And not only that, he's got Lindsey Graham as pilot fish on the other side, going, we're going to knock the hell out of them. We're going to knock them down their knees. And speaking of being on your knees, that is a place I'm comfortable in, and we're going to knock it right out of them, all the pudding out of them, all the honey, the sweet biscuits that I love to cook up.
Pete Louise Dominic. I don't know what you're implying about Miss Lindsay, but that is wrong. Yeah, isn't he just like your little yippee chihuahua? He's just like, yeah. And it's he's just such a.
I kind of wish I had a Lindsey Graham when you say it that way.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Like a hype man.
Yeah.
He's like Flavor Flav.
Yeah, like whatever I say, he says, yeah, boss, yeah.
Absolutely. Find someone who looks at you the way Lady G looks at the commander-in-chief.
Chris, who said of Joe Kent, "I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. Good thing he's out."
Augie Doggy.
No, that was Orange Hitler. Kel said, "It amazes me his supporters never see the central contradiction that all these people who are weak and people he has hired, endorsed, praised, and then just one after another, right? They're gone."
It's crazy how he never has to answer for why he hired them in the first place. I mean, it's like watching The Apprentice. He's like, "You were never any good, never liked you." Like, you loved me. You said the other day how great I was. No, I didn't mean that. I didn't say it. I probably didn't say it. You're misremembering. I've got to go. It's ridiculous. How does anybody get over it? The way he fires him and the way he hired him is like, he's very good looking. Speaking of, I mean,
Central casting, Pete.
Yeah, well, even you don't have to. You can look any way. You can be the most beautiful Joe Kent in the world and still be apparently a Nazi. Not
Nazi enough.
Reading it yesterday, it's like he's resigned and he's so mad and he publicly resigned, blaming Trump. And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. Who's this guy?" And I look into him. I'm like, "Oh dear,
dear,
he's very bad."
No, when I was debating on CNN last night, she's like, "Oh, yeah, all these bad things to say about Joe Cannon now," and I'm like, "No, he's still awful. He's right about the Iran war." You know, you retweeted just why aren't other companies helping us with the Strait of Hormuz after we started an unjust war, cut off trade, and insulted them for a year? I mean, who couldn't have seen this coming, right? That they were all, every ally in the world was going to tell them to go pound sand.
Anybody who knows the region knows it, and I should have consulted because we just gave up our timeshare in the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh, did you? That was bad timing.
Doing a jet skiing.
Who's that
trip.
Infomercial guy? Did he help you get out of it? The timeshare?
The timeshare.
What's his name?
I can't remember.
The guy, he's on wife number. He's just like you, but he's on meds too.
On wife number 2.
Yeah, and he's like you, but he's on wife number 2. Does that guy help you?
No, ours, to be fair, got destroyed.
Uncle Lou, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Strait of Hormuz vacation has been canceled. Everybody knew exactly what would happen. Everybody knew exactly what would happen if we went into Iran. That's why nobody did it before this way. And by the way, remember when Orange Hitler the other day said, I talked to another president, a previous president, said, I wish I had the gall to do it. But then reporters reach out. No other president has spoken to him. What a shock that he just made it up.
And no one, to your point, Pete, does a follow-up. Every living president said no, they didn't talk to you, but no one does a follow-up. I mean, I think it's just the lying is so baked in. Everyone just assumes he's lying about everything, but how do we just keep existing like this?
You're nasty. You're nasty.
You're a nasty woman. Yeah, you are. Yeah, horrible reporter.
Anybody who asks like the most normal question in the world, if he doesn't want to answer it, he just I wish I could do that in my life, in my relationship, small talk at the grocery store. Sir, do you want to put your phone number in the code? I think you're nasty.
Yeah,
you know what?
You're a horrible checkout person.
You're a terrible checkout. Yeah, of all the checkout people, I mean, you are just a disgrace. You know that you're a disgrace. Your parents hate you. They wish you'd get a real job and not be a checkout person, according to Stephanie Miller. That's how she minimizes people who work hard as cashiers, as checkout persons. Anyway, ask Stephanie.
Can you Venmo me the money for the service I just gave you? Yeah, that's a horrible question. You're a horrible person for even asking. No, I'm not going to pay that.
Do you know where the locals, there's a Starbucks nearby? No, you're a piece of, you know what you are? Just want to know where a Starbucks
You also posted Mark Wayne, Ricky Bobby Mullen, Colby Carrington is his full name, makes Kristi Noem look like a genius. Also, Stephen Miller still running the show, and what is the shield of Americas? Trump just completely creates new positions for people he fires, so it doesn't look like he fired them. Yeah, is it a panty shield? What is the shield of America? Do we know?
Mark Wayne Mullen is testifying today, and it is exciting because Rand Paul is attacking him for. Way because they hate each other. It's
so hard to pick a team. Are we team Rand Paul's neighbor? Are we team Mark Levin micropenis? Which team are we on?
You bring up such a conflicting point that I don't know where to think. I love watching so many of these people battle each other. And by the way, someone tweeted, I forget who it was, but said Mark Wayne Mullen is supposed to secure our border. He can't even secure the border between his first names.
It's too many names. Too many names.
Mark Wayne.
Are you ready for this hour's Now a Warning? Chief Justice John Roberts says personal attacks on judges are dangerous and it's got to stop.
Now a warning?
Yes, he said personal attacks on Supreme Court justices and lower court justices are dangerous and said hostility directed towards specific jurists has got to stop. Yeah, if only somebody had not given Trump absolute immunity. And I mean, seriously, we are in Young Frankenstein. Your monster, your turn.
Exactly. So many people in right-wing media and all these never-Trumpers, and obviously Roberts and many on the Supreme Court who gutted the Voting Rights Act and Citizens United, they seeded the ground. They sowed the seed for exactly what we see, and they keep doing it. So John Roberts sitting there with his haircut that looks like Sean Penn's character in One Battle After Another. Did you see that, John Roberts? What's that Christmas tree club that they joined in that movie? I think he might be a member.
I think so too.
Yeah.
It's just, you installed a president with an abnormal brain, and now he's putting on the Ritz. And he's like, what is this monster that's attacking judges? What have I done?
You guys think yesterday a lower court overruled crazy, what do we call RFK, his decision to not recommend vaccines. All the pediatricians in the whole world were aghast by it. So this lower court overrules it. Do you think, Steph, that John Roberts is going to uphold the scientific results?
Absolutely not.
It's
because he has an agenda.
Yeah, it's just it's.
I feel like it's changing. I don't know. Maybe he is a Christmas explorer.
This is the point. How the ridiculousness that is the Republican Party. This is Pete Sessions saying that it's not really boots on the ground if it's an island. Is that what? Okay.
I actually spoke to some media last night, and I indicated that I believe that what these 2,500 Marines of the Marine Expeditionary Force would be to probably secure the island. Is that boots on the ground? No, not like inside Iran where they're in the cities.
So islands are not ground. What you have to understand, Stephanie, is islands are not made of ground.
They're islands in the stream, as someone once said.
That is what they are.
That is what they are. And so they're not really. Right. You're so close to water. It's not like you know.
Right.
Right.
The closer you are to the water, the more likely you are to not have boots also.
Right.
So you put them on the ground. It's insane.
How do you, Pete, seriously, we ask everyone this. How do you keep your personal sanity? This timeline is the dumbest. It's the most exhausting. It's been going on 10 years.
I honestly, I'll be serious, I remind myself of the infinite acts of love and kindness that if you look even a little hard, you can see everywhere. I also remind myself that millions and millions of people are having sex right now.
Yes.
Finally.
Yes.
And finally, I mean, I do this. Somebody gave me this advice a couple of years ago when I was down on my luck, which is I help other people. Like, I don't mean to sound too virtue signaling, but that you asked the question. I go and try to do service or things for people I know or have a hard time, and that makes me feel good, brings me back to get ready for tomorrow's fight.
Yeah, oh no, I say that don't I say that all the time? Pete Dominic, it's as if Gandhi, Mother Teresa.
Yes.
I mean, they wouldn't have done that because they're Gandhi and Mother Teresa, but that they would have made Pete Dominic.
I also look like their child.
Yes, that's what I meant, just physically. I didn't mean morally. I just meant, all right. And this woman is giving me life this morning. Hold, please.
If you could say something to President Trump and he was going to hear you right now, what would it be?
You're a worthless pile of
And you voted for him how many times?
3 times. That was my bad. Apparently, I'm an idiot.
That is my future wife. I don't know who she is. I don't care. I just want to hold her, kiss her, and date her.
I forget that reporter's name. He's at MS Now. I've spent some time with him. Nice guy. But he knew he had a viral clip as soon as he
Absolutely.
smiling. You could hear him smiling like, I'm going to dominate the afternoon on Threads with this lady.
And he did.
I win Threads.
Yeah, that was actually sent to me by 3 different people.
Oh, God, everybody I've ever known sent it to me. Yeah. Pete Dominic, you're the stuff that dreams are made of. The podcast is Stand Up with Pete Dominic. Won't you stand up with Pete Dominic, for God's sake?
It's a daily podcast, so you get Daily Pete.
And also my new podcast, The Stuff That Dreams Are Made Of, is launching next week. So I'm pretty excited that you promoted it.
Nice.
That's fantastic. You know, here's my favorite thing. Speaking of how I survive, I get love videos from... stop getting so close to the camera. You're freaking me out. Stop that. Okay. As I get love videos from voice guys, Billy West and Carlos Alzraki, and then I got a bald man love video from Glenn Kirshner and Pete Dominic one time. They just record little love videos and send them to me, and that's it.
It gets you through.
Yeah, it gets me through my day. Yeah.
We are secret lovers. I wish nobody knew, but Glenn and I are definitely secret lovers. We text not all day long.
Okay, now
it's not so secret now.
That's kind of hot,
Wow,
actually.
yeah. Okay. All right.
It is. Guess who's a little spoon? It ain't me.
All right.
I'm his gavel.
All right, Mr. Clean. Take your headphones off, put your earring back in, and we'll see.
Yes, he's got a gavel.
God, it's so gay in that big purple room. Okay, look. For a super straight guy. Love you. See you next time. I hope it's soon.
Thank you, Pete.
He's so fantastic. Come on. What's not great about him?
I love Pete Dominic.
Come on.
Yeah.
Grab that gavel. 20 minutes after.
All right, there you go. Well, that's how it sounded yesterday on the Stephanie Miller Show. What'd you think? Go check her out. Go message the show and tell her to have me back on more, because it's always great to promote this podcast. And I'm always looking for ways to promote it. And the best way to promote it is to actually appear as a guest on other people's programs. And pretty much everybody has one. I'll do your show. You got a show? I'll do it. Yes. People call me up like, Pete, would you do? Yes. Yes, I will. When does it air? When do I have to be there? Okay, now let's get to my conversation with Dr. Rob Davidson. He is our featured guest on today's show, of course. Almost every day I talk to a really smart person about very important issues that matter to you, your family, your community, your country, your planet. Dr. Rob Davidson is an emergency room doctor. He's also the executive director of this great new organization, the Committee to Protect Healthcare. You've got to check out their Substack and their podcast. Follow and support Rob on social media. More about him in the links in the show notes. But here is what we talked about yesterday, including vaccines and the RFK and a lot more. Here it is. Dr. Rob Davidson is now joining me from the Committee to Protect Healthcare. You got to go subscribe to their Substack. Paging America is really, really good. You've got a podcast that you're doing now regularly where you have a conversation with a really smart guy who you work with named Miles. I love it. People should go listen to that, but I'm so happy to get to check in with you today to talk about everything that's going on and probably getting overshadowed by, wars.
Jesus, I know. Hard to keep up.
Do you think about that? Do you think about when you're trying to get your message out to talk about the issue of healthcare, which I've said for a long time, if you're more worried about a terrorist attack than a heart attack, you've been duped. Like national security is healthcare. Healthcare is national security. But is it frustrating to have to compete with all of these other scandals and controversies?
The frustrating part isn't that we have to compete with coverage because people should be covering what the hell they're doing out there. The frustrating part is that they're just everything they're doing, right? For dubious reasons or unknown reasons and creating news cycles that seemingly shouldn't exist. That does get a little for all of us. I'm sure you as well.
How have you personally, as a physician, an ER physician, how do you look at conflict and war and this kind of violence, the ones that we're, I think, leading and starting, as well as just any that we're part of anywhere in the world? Have you worked with veterans, combat veterans or anything like that in America? Because I think people don't talk about the real costs of war. And frankly, there aren't any real costs of war. It gets added to the credit card, and less than 1% of Americans are volunteered for the military. So what are your general thoughts? And, from the standpoint of being an ER physician, I suppose you've seen it all in Michigan alone.
Yeah. I tell you what, clinically, I see, unfortunately, a lot of vets coming through, particularly with behavioral health emergencies, right? Just folks in crisis because of, either untreated, undertreated PTSD, other mental health disorders. Really good dude. One of our board chairs in the organization and our Pennsylvania State lead, Max Cooper, is an ER doc that I know really well who served in Afghanistan. He and I talk about that. And a dude you probably should know, Jason Kander, who once almost ran for president, was statewide elected in Missouri. He's a veteran of Afghanistan, Army intelligence officer. And I had him on the podcast talking about sort of the costs of that and his crisis, mental health crisis, when he was trying to run for president and kind of pulled himself out of it so he could go seek care at the VA. It's pervasive. And I think, folks like Trump and Stephen Miller and Hegseth, these dudes, Hegseth served, but like these dudes sitting there in suits in Washington, kind of moving pieces around, telling us it's a little excursion and just dropping some bombs. And meanwhile, military service members are getting killed and getting, getting bombed and getting attacked. Like it's terrible. It's terrible. They do it so flippantly.
Sorry to hear that you've dealt with so many veterans there, but I'm also unsurprised because it's epidemic proportions for veterans who served in Iraq and Afghanistan and every previous conflict. But obviously, we've learned a lot, and now it seems like we haven't learned our lessons. However, in terms of these wars, here we are in Iran again. Am I losing you? Did something happen on the internet? Did I have an internet issue? Are we good?
I'm losing you a little bit.
Damn
it! A little delay with you.
How about now?
No, you're good. Yep.
Okay. All right. Hopefully it was just a blip. So a lot that I want to talk with you about, including and probably most importantly, the most recent development where a federal court struck down the vaccine policies instituted by the federal government, led by a man who works out in jeans, an absolute crazy person, RFK Jr. Judge strikes down Kennedy's vaccine policies, ruling on a lawsuit brought by several prominent medical organizations. District court said the federal court had not based its decisions on science in limiting COVID shots and revising the childhood immunization schedule. What's your top line reaction?
Yeah, I think it's great that we have some legal pushback, right? I think medically, those of us who practice medicine, the AAP was one of the organizations, American Academy of Pediatrics is part of that suit, right? In charge of the health of our kids, right? The Pediatrician Society. And we all have looked at this from a medical standpoint, the vast majority of docs who are just trying to take care of patients and said, this stuff is batshit crazy and this is dangerous and people are going to die. And we see with the outbreaks of measles, right, across this country last year, this year, I mean, it's unbelievable. And so it's nice to now see there's a legal slapback against what they're doing. And I think Judge Murphy and what he cited, I'm not a legal expert, but it's reassuring to know that there is some legal framework to keep them in check and keep them from causing harm, and doing these dangerous, dastardly deeds they've been up to. So yeah, I guess we'll stay tuned, but it's a great development. And I think in some ways the toothpaste is out of the tube on all the vaccine disinformation, right? From RFK Jr. as HHS secretary and from him throughout his career, right? Yeah. Before that, and just all of the people's feeds getting flooded. But it's good to know they're telling them, hey man, you can't do this from the official perch of the U.S. government. That's not legal.
Good to take a step back and just make sure folks understand kind of what happened here, which is we had an election and we elected a madman. And he appointed all kinds of cartoon villains, including RFK Jr. at HHS, which so many reasons to just be shocked by that. He comes in, he has a weird confirmation hearing. Somehow he gets confirmed, and then he has a tremendous amount of power. And specifically, we're talking today about the influence that he had on the Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices, or ACIP, as it's called in your world, I guess. So Kennedy gets rid of all the scientists on that board and replaces them with less credible or even quacks, conspiracy theorists, and then they're able to do things. In this case, put out a vaccine schedule, which is something that all, in this case, pediatricians, I guess, reference as to when to vaccinate and how much to give and all the directives, which has not been that controversial. And every year it gets updated with new research in science, right? How am I doing?
Yeah, no, you got it. You nailed it. That's exactly what they're supposed to do. And they do little minor tweaks and updates and occasionally big ones, right? When HPV vaccine came out to nearly eliminate cervical cancer, that was added to the list because we think it's good to eliminate cancer with a safe and effective drug.
I went and continue to speak out about that as the father of two daughters when they were whatever age, and some people thought it was too young. I was screaming in ways that may have been effective or not, but trying to advocate to get your daughters that vaccine. Imagine
and sons.
And so, there's there's a vaccine that for boys that prevents what? Because
HPV. I mean, that's where the HPV is sexually transmitted. You get it between people having sex. So yeah.
Forgive me. I know that that's very common, but HPV itself is not as detrimental as what it causes in girls and women, which is cervical cancer. Am I right?
Yeah. Genital warts and other things in young men. But yeah, for women, cervical cancer, huge.
Good. I'm glad you corrected me and made that note for boys as well. Very important. I'm thinking about my daughters, and I'm just thinking about, imagine like living long enough to see them get cervical cancer, knowing I could have prevented it had I been a better parent and getting this vaccine. It's just a grotesque amount of misinformation and campaign against, damages girls a lot more than boys. I think it's still fair to say. Anyway, so here we are. This federal judge, makes this ruling, and it brings an abrupt halt to the major changes of Kennedy and the commission here, and it has a lot of consequences. It's going to be appealed. It'll probably go to the Supreme Court, but we can talk about that in a moment, or with legal experts. It's anybody's best guess what they do. But what does this mean right now, Rob, this ruling? Am I back?
Yeah. You're back. Yeah. What does it mean right now? I think it means that, like in practice, I'm not sure it means a whole lot for what doctors are doing on the ground and what the AAP has recommended and state medical societies have continued to recommend. The vaccine the mandates come from states, right? Who needs what to go to school, what have you. And so, but again, when the mouthpiece of the U.S. government can start spewing the non-facts, eliminating the Hep B birth dose, which has reduced the number of infantile hepatitis from like 20,000 to 20. It was Dr. Senator Cassidy who gave his stamp of approval to RFK Jr. over a year ago. Like he's the one who said that, right? He believes that. He was a gastroenterologist, treated people with liver disease. He knows that. So when they took that away, like the U.S. government, HHS, RFK, the CDC cannot be the voice to tell people that, right? To eliminate meningococcus vaccine that keeps college kids from getting meningitis and a horrible blood disease, meningococcemia, right? They can't, stop. Or stop telling people they should be getting a flu shot or a COVID shot, which we know prevents hospitalizations and deaths. So that's a good thing. I think in practice, the vast majority of doctors who are looking out for their patients have been still advocating the vaccine schedule that we've known. So in practice, I'm not sure how much it does, but it's still a great development. And a little bit of pushback to let them know you can't just do this shit willy-nilly. Like there are actual laws that come into play that you have to abide by.
We have seen, and I think you and I talked about it before, individual states like California investing in and developing their own public health departments. States have their own public health departments, just like the federal government has Health and Human Services. How successful have any of these states been? Is that a good idea?
It's a great idea. I mean, I think they joined up with Oregon and Washington in the Western Health Alliance, or something they called it there. And Dr. Deb Howery, who was one of the people who left CDC, I think she was the CMO of CDC when they fired the CDC medical director. I had her on before. She's a great person to talk with, but she's on the board of that entity, right? The Western States Alliance. So I think it's great. I think there's an entity in the Northeast. But each state, unfortunately, though, if you live in a state that is run by folks who are kind of on this MAGA Maha agenda, you aren't necessarily going to get the information you should be getting, right? That's based in fact in science and that's intended to protect you. So that's the problem with just leaving it to the states. Just like abortion, when they repealed Roe v. Wade, having Roe v. Wade in place said, hey, man, you live in this country. You have a right to bodily autonomy. You can make your own decisions with your doctor. They took it away. And now you have people in Ohio now proposing a bill that anytime you hear a whoosh of blood that causes a heartbeat, you have to register that. What? This is like the latest thing they're trying to do. Like, it's like, Jesus. So yeah, leaving it to the states is definitely problematic. It's great that states like California, they're banding together and providing the right information people need.
Just on that issue of women's reproductive rights, you work in an ER. I mean, I just interviewed Amy Littlefield, who is the Nation magazine correspondent who covers women's reproductive rights. She's got a new book out, which is important and interesting. And it's the 50th anniversary of Roe v. Wade. I think is that? Yeah. No, it's a couple of years past it. Anyway, I just want to know, since they allowed abortion to basically be outlawed in several states, went ahead and did it. What are we seeing? Because one of the, I think, important points to be made is this is not 1973. It's 2026, and you can get a pill. And it's very hard for the anti-abortion movement to prevent those types of medical, what's it called, termination of your pregnancy. Yeah. So what have you seen with the resistance, the decrease in access to women's reproductive care, specifically abortions?
Yeah, I think you see reporting coming out from states with total bans or near total bans that women have delays in getting care for miscarriages, delays in getting care for ectopic pregnancies, right? I mean, some horrible stories of women who died from hemorrhage because, they were massively bleeding, and yet the embryo that was destined to become a miscarriage still had a flicker of something they called a heartbeat, and so they couldn't intervene in these places. Whether the law stated that or not, like the fear of prosecution, the fear of doctors going to jail because of these strict bans, I think that's terrible. You're right, though. It's not 1973. The abortion pill, mifepristone, the most common one, is I think 60% of abortions now happen through mifepristone. I know in Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula, way up in the UP, the last abortion clinic closed. So the only way women can get the constitutionally protected right to have an abortion in Michigan is through telehealth and using an abortion pill or traveling to like another state. So fortunately they have that access now. there's folks trying to ban that, right? Senator Cassidy had a help committee meeting about the, quote, dangers of mifepristone, right? Citing some absolutely bogus, they called a study. It's just like an insurance review by an anti-abortion activist in Florida that cited the dangers of it. One of the safest things the FDA has approved 20 years ago, safer than aspirin, safer than Viagra. And now Senator Josh Hawley has introduced a bill in the Senate to ban mifepristone, and I think there's a companion bill in the House. So they're not stopping. The bullshit line of Trump, leave it to the states, that was just a line, right? That was a line. They're trying to make this illegal or just inaccessible everywhere in the country as much as they can.
You guys are doing a great podcast. I think I mentioned it on the record here. I don't know if I did, but pagingamerica.org. Go find the podcast and subscribe to it. And just referencing a couple of episodes that you've done, including one recapping what you titled "The Weird and Wild Casey Means Confirmation Hearing." Casey Means is Trump's nominee for Surgeon General. And I saw clips, and it was pretty bizarre. But I don't know what to expect. I don't know what the qualifications are. We've seen the Surgeon General throughout the years wearing that silly jacket, and it seems like the top doctor in America. But he really seems like a figurehead, he or she, as well, and doing a lot of PSAs and a lot of speaking and guidance and so on. I don't know what the job entails. I don't know what the requirements or qualifications are. But it was a weird and wild hearing. What do you want to say about Casey Means? Is she even a doctor?
So she is a doctor, right? She did go to medical school, got her medical degree. She did most of, I believe, a residency in ear, nose, and throat surgery, but stopped that residency. She says she stopped it because she wanted to explore other ways to make people healthy and entering the wellness sphere. I saw a quote from her former residency director said she left because it was hard, and it is and that's fine. I know people who trained and went into medicine, and after a couple of years said, "Yeah, this isn't what I want," and that's cool. People can change careers, they can change paths. That's okay. The problem is she doesn't have an active medical license, right? She has one that is dormant. She'll say, well, I'm licensed. Well, I don't know. It's a little bit of nuance. There's a license there in Oregon, but it isn't active. She can't actively see patients legally in the state of Oregon. That has always been a criteria of the Surgeon General. That
it has
an actual physician, right? Who does patient care. She did patient care as a resident way back. And so I feel like, and I think Senator Kim from New Jersey very much highlighted this in his line of questioning, you're really not qualified for this job. Forget all the kooky stuff of praying to trees and the fact that she's grifting and promoting products and not disclosing financial interests in products. The fact that she sells wearable glucose monitors to people who aren't diabetic, who don't need glucose monitors. But I believe it was in 24 that company of hers made $20-some million. I mean, like all of that aside, because conflicts of interest are just kind of silly things we talk about at dinner parties with the Trump administration. They don't disqualify you.
Yeah, it's so weird. I don't. But that used to be a major thing and red flag in government and public service in general. And people used to hide it, but now they're just openly.
Remember the number of people who had to stop seeking their government job because they had a nanny that they paid for without paying taxes? That is a big deal, right? That should be a big deal. But can you imagine nowadays someone in the Trump administration being busted for something like that and say, "Oh well, that's it, they're sunk." I mean, the level of corruption and grift and greed that exists, it's just sort of, I think, par for the course. It's the expectation. And so once you get past that, you have to start looking at other reasons they shouldn't be there. For her, there are plenty of reasons.
Real grifters have taken over the government and specifically, appointed by this president and his administration. So many grifters, from the election denialists to the science denialists and all of the rest, and name any science really that you want. It's probably a good way to look at it, and how history will look at it, that a bunch of con artists and snake oil salesmen and grifters are selling nonsense, which is a pretty morally horrible thing to do, to sell somebody something, promising them either wealth or health, knowing that neither is going to happen. I find that to be the worst type of person. I sold knives but they're really good knives, Cutco knives. I still have them. Like, I stand by selling those knives. You sell medicine, and I'm pretty sure you feel purposeful. Although I did just read, you're a Michigan ER doctor, Western Michigan, I believe. Reuters headline, back to what we were talking about today. Child vaccination rate drops sharply in Michigan under RFK Jr.'s influence. My best friend here is a pediatrician. Talked to him this morning. He goes, just this morning, a woman said, I don't know about the Hep B vaccine. I can't do it anymore, Pete. I can't do it anymore. That's my impression of Zatz. Your thoughts on this headline?
I want to meet Zach first.
Zatz, Z-A-T-Z, Zatz. He's a legend.
It's troubling. It's frustrating. You know, I've mentioned before, my wife's a family doc, so she has these conversations with parents and families about, getting vaccines. And it used to be, sort of part of the thing, hey, I'm your doctor and I recommend this because I know what the data is. I know the science, it's out there and it is effective. All right. We can prevent these diseases. And it's, it's almost like they've taken something, probably the modern medical marvel of vaccines that have saved more lives than any of us, working in our clinical practice combined. And they've flipped it on its head and made it seem like something bad. So yeah, I'm with that. It's like, it's challenging. I mean, I've had conversations just giving someone a tetanus booster, right? They cut their hand on a rusty old tractor out in the field. And, I don't know about that tetanus booster. It's like, oh boy, I don't know about tetanus. Like, I've not seen it, right? Because everyone's historically been up to date. I'll probably see it.
I'm not going to lie to you. I've rolled the dice at least 3 times on tetanus, like straight up right out of the textbook, rusty nail in my foot. And I'm like, and 2 dog bites. I rolled the dice on them. I'm not telling other people they should ignore that, but I'm an idiot. And I want to make that clear. Getting back though to Casey Means, what's your conclusion of this Surgeon General nominee and her confirmation hearing, her qualifications?
Yeah, I think she's not qualified. I think she shouldn't be Surgeon General. I think there are many other people they could pick that may also adhere to some of the kooky ideas that they're all pushing, who actually, practice medicine and could serve in that role just by the mere qualifications. So we'll see, RFK Jr. wasn't qualified to be HHS secretary, and we thought maybe that wouldn't happen. And then Senator Cassidy sort of voted yay, and brought a few people along with them and assuring them. So we'll see. I mean, she's not as dangerous as RFK Jr. because she doesn't have as much power, right? But again, just having another mouthpiece of the government, kind of with credentials, and sort of conferring credibility on her, definitely not a good thing. So we'll see.
One thing we were talking about, Zatz and I were talking about this morning, how people should, the dumbest person, let's make it be me, understands how pollution is bad for your health. It's not hard to think. You see this black soot, and I'm specifically talking about like coal and the burning coal, and that they've been able to convince people that windmills and solar are bad, and coal is where we should invest, much less obviously oil and gas. Burning oil and gas, methane has been found to cause asthma in kids with gas ovens. And so, Democrats wanted to do some good and put some regulations around them and phase them out. But of course that got demagogued and people went crazy. But just thinking about some of the things that people are convinced of, like just certain parts of the country, if you live in a certain part, the air or the world, bad air means you'll die earlier, right? Is my understanding, much less you could have a lot of serious diseases while you're alive. Is that fair to say? Is that hard to...
Yeah, I mean, the things you can see, right? The black soot, and then the things you can't see that I trust the climate scientists who do study this, who tell me that when you burn coal, you get mercury into the environment. Mercury gets into the water, mercury gets into the fish, right? And RFK Jr. has spent a part of his career trying to convince people that a little tiny bit of a different kind of mercury, a non-clinically active mercury in vaccine vials somehow caused diseases. And yet we think burning coal is a good idea, right? The way you do get mercury poisoning. It's all turned on its head. And it's not that it's dumb people or smart people. I think it's people who have kind of settled themselves into a particular tribe. And so if the leaders of that tribe tell them something, they just have to take the marching orders and go with it. And you're seeing a bit of a fracture in Maha, right? When they increase production of glyphosate, the Roundup pesticide, and that's something they've been against for a long time. And then RFK Jr. came out and defended this, under the guise of something about national security. Listen, I think more chemicals is bad. Yes, we should eliminate them and reduce them. But I think this is a real sticky point. There's been a lot of reporting lately about the fractures in that Maha coalition who came along with Trump and MAGA because RFK Jr. was, getting all the attention and going to get their guy was going to be in the government. They're starting to question the allegiance to this whole movement.
Well, so you can see where he's getting the pushback and where industries tell policymakers, the leaders of industry say, no, you can't do that. You can't, we'll let you, you can go do that over there to that industry, but there's no way we'll allow you to do what you want to do against whatever that is, glyphosate. The headline at AP News, the Associated Press, RFK Jr. backs production of pesticides. He fought for years, although I see another headline, Kennedy addresses glyphosate concerns with Joe Rogan. So I guess they settled it.
There you go. Well, at least you're on Joe Rogan. That probably figured it out.
Last question I want to ask you is, you're not only a doctor who practices medicine in the ER and has for years, you're pretty smart when it comes to health policy, and you're great at explaining things and also understanding and what can happen to a hospital, much less a healthcare system in a state, a locality, a municipality. And we've talked about this before. And so my question to you is, we've talked about rural hospitals closing. We've heard that as being a major concern with the cuts to healthcare, specifically Medicaid and Medicare. And my understanding is that these cuts that we've all been so worried about aren't going into effect until after the midterm elections, which is politically practical. And so far, when it comes to cuts to Medicaid and other healthcare issues, I feel like we haven't seen the consequences of the agenda they've passed. Do I have that right? We haven't had hospitals close or be defunded because it's not in effect is that accurate? Is that right?
Yeah, the lion's share of the actual cuts aren't happening until after these midterms, right? And there's no secret as to why they did it that way. But the reality is, like hospital systems, like any other business, they have to plan on longer horizons than election cycles or than a few years or a few months, right? So there have been announcements. I think it was Kansas, I forget exactly where, hospital, this is 6 months ago, announced it just a little bit after the vote, that they were going to close, and they cited these cuts that they knew were coming, right? So there are pockets out there. There are certainly hospitals at risk, and some that have, kind of let people know, hey, this isn't going to happen. This isn't going to be able to exist, and this is the reason why. But yeah, that's part of the job of healthcare advocates, is to explain, hey, this isn't happening just now, but this $1 trillion they pulled out of Medicaid to give tax cuts to billionaires, here's where it's going to hit people the most. And it's definitely coming because, they can't just make money. They can't just print it off if you're a hospital trying to stay afloat in these rural spaces. So, that's part of our job. And that's part of what I know we're doing as an organization is letting people know this is coming.
Yeah, and doing a great job at it. Go over to pagingamerica.org right now. Listen to the podcast, subscribe to the Substack, and support the Committee to Protect Healthcare, and follow Rob on all the social medias. What are the plugs? What did I miss? Where is the best place to promote? Substack?
Yeah, I think, head to our Substack. You can listen to us on any of the platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, others. We've got a little bit of a presence on YouTube. That's going to definitely grow. We got plans for that. So
I hate how good you guys, I hate how good you guys are at media. You're healthcare experts, and you're really done a fantastic job. It bothers me a little bit, because I'm supposed to be good. I'm supposed to be that good. And
you're good at the media. You just got to get people on to talk about the things, right?
I do. I love.
You're plenty good.
I always get, whenever someone is really good at one thing and then they're really good at another thing, I always want to take the hardest shot I can at them, Rob.
Yeah,
that would be
sure.
you. And that would be you. You're good at a lot of things. And I appreciate you joining us and informing us. And everybody go over to Page in America, go subscribe. And thank you as well for watching live, those of you that did. And now we are back to the podcast. That's how it sounded yesterday with Dr. Rob Davidson. Do all the things I asked, all the plugs. Please, for him, support him. Let him know that you heard him here on the show. Contact Stephanie Miller. Write a rating and review for this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Subscribe on YouTube and Substack at Stand Up with Pete. Go get your tickets for Pod Jam, and those are my plugs to end the show. Other than saying, I hope to see you at tonight's hangout, you bumblebees listening all the way to the end. And I hope today you can be the change you want to see, or you could just get out of bed and, take a walk. We can lower the standards if need be. We don't have to be a top-notch elite tier each and every day, do we? John Carroll is. He takes us in and out every day, writes all the music for the show. We love him. JohnCarroll.org. See you tonight or tomorrow. Bye.
I think you're driving wheels in leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. Alright, we got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it than now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.